Oh, do I feel good this week? What's up, everybody? Welcome into DTL Golf. We're every single Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, breaking down the very next event on the PGA Tour. If you had Hideki Matsuyama last week, you're a very, very rich man today because he was north of 100 to 1, some places 130 to 1. On Sunday, he was 6 back. Roared back to win. We're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss Tiger having to withdraw and also Jordan Spieth. What are you doing? Incorrect scorecard. So let's bring in the stars of the show. This week, I got two of my absolute very best. My man, Steve Scott, who called the Genesis with me last week on PGA Tour Live. And, of course, the man who was a little bit too busy playing in a big-time pro-am. By the way, Fast Eddie, how'd you play last week?
I played well. I actually, it was fun for the PGA Tour Champions, the Chubb Classic. Made 6 birdies, made 3 bogeys. They raked a couple 3-footers away from me, some of the teammates, but it was fun. It was a great day. Thanks to Chubb and Outlier for having me out there. It was great. I drove it like I drove the eyes out of it. It's a lot easier when I drive it, long and straight. So, but it was fun. I missed you guys though.
We missed you too. Little unfortunate because that event actually was short to 36 holes. There's just so much rain all over the country right now. It's been raining here where I live in Southern California for the last 2 months, it seems like. And that event on Sunday, a little anticlimactic because it was only 9 holes because of the weather, but it is what it is. Now, gentlemen, where are we going to start this week? Because Steve Scott, you and I were on the call last week. It was anything but anticlimactic on Sunday, at least, as Hideki Matsuyama wins for the first time in 2 years. The last win was the Sony Open in what JT Poston called the most impressive round he's ever seen in person. He played with him. So let's start with you, because what Hideki did to come back from 6 behind of Patrick Cantlay, who led for the entire tournament, to win, cashing north of 100 to 1. How impressive was that to you?
Coach, it was so impressive. I mean, I think what you have to do, though, is you have to understand Patrick Cantlay slept on the lead for 3 nights in a row. It is hard. It is almost, I mean, it very rarely happens that a player will go wire to wire in a 4-round tournament like this. So he had the odds stacked against him. But Hideki Matsuyama, there was 3 different times in that final round that he had 3 consecutive birdies. He started off 1, 2, and 3 with birdies, and then 10, 11, and 12. And then 15, 16, and 17 got the deal. He closed the deal like a champ, like the champ that he is. Definitely, he was super happy that he was able to pass his fellow countryman KJ Choi as the most winningest Asian player out there on tour. He's got 9 wins now. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, he said, he was quoted afterwards. I love Hideki, but he was quoted saying he didn't think he might ever win again with all the injuries that he's gone through. Now, Eddie, you've worked personally with Hideki the last couple of years as he's trying to get more distance and really get to where he can compete on the PGA Tour. With what you saw and knowing him and being up close, what was most impressive to you?
Well, I think the thing that was most impressive to me was the work he's done in with Jeff Flagg. When I met Hideki a few years ago, he was struggling. He had some neck issues and back issues. So, he came up to me knowing that I'm healthy and hit it really far. He wanted to know what I was doing. So I introduced him to Jeff Flagg, my trainer. So Jeff and Hideki have been working for about 14 months and they're putting some awesome work in. Really happy. I haven't really worked on speed with him ever since that one time, like last July, like a year and a half ago, just because I didn't want to push him too hard, especially with a neck issue. And, he needs to release his head a little bit more in transition, which he's doing a better job of. But I'm stoked for him. He's such a great guy to make 3 turkeys in one round, 3 turkeys, 3 birdies in a row, 3 times, and shoot 62 at Riv. That's it was amazing. What a performance.
Yeah. It was really, really incredible. And when you talk about a 9 under 62 to close it after Patrick Cantlay, and it came out that Cantlay was battling a fever over 100, and that can certainly affect how you play. But there were a lot of guys, Steve, that played pretty well on Sunday. Will Zalatoris, it came out that he lost a family member. He finished tied second, had a hole-in-one on Friday. He won a car for himself and for his caddy. Yep. But when you look at everything else that you saw, and with some of the people getting sick, from a betting perspective, a lot of people cashed some big-time numbers. I know you here on the show, all 3 of your head-to-heads, and then I hit 2 of my 3, pushed the other one. So we had a pretty good week.
Yeah, we had a great week. It was I had a top 20 there with Adam Scott, birdied the last couple holes to finish just inside the top 20. Almost had the outright with Cantlay, who was tied for fourth there, and Will Zalatoris was my long shot pick, and he almost won himself. So yeah, if you tailed me a little bit last week, put an extra shrimp on the Barbie because you had a good opportunity to get a little something there. But yes, it was a great week. A lot of great players. It was great to see Will Zalatoris come back after all those injuries, and he's kind of retooled his swing a little bit, and it is working. He's got a putting stroke with that long putter that's kind of working right now too. It's pretty straight back and through. There's not a lot of hitch in the getty up.
Yeah, if you guys tailed us, certainly we tell you all the time, even if something doesn't hit and it comes close, then you got to make a note of it and understand that golf's very streaky. So a lot of these players may play well in the weeks to come. Now, for all the good that there was, Fast Eddie, there was some negative. And it was great at the start of the week to see Tiger Woods back. And it was awesome the first day, although Justin Thomas, and Gary Woodland didn't play all that well. But then on Friday, after 7 holes, you knew something was wrong. You thought it was the back. You thought it was the ankle. And then we come to find out that he had a really bad flu-like symptom night. It got worse at the course on Friday. They had to bring an ambulance. They had fire trucks. It was all this drama. He takes an IV. How anticlimactic on Friday was it? Because it kind of sucked the energy out, at least for a day.
Yeah, I think it did exactly that. When Tiger is the needle in golf, let's face it. If he's not going to be there for the weekend, I believe he probably would have made the cut if he was healthy. He was swinging it really well outside of, we won't say the word on 18 on Thursday, but if he's not there on the weekend, like it's almost like the networks are like, please, Tiger, make the cut, please, please, please. And we're all like that, right? We all want to see him play on the weekend, but it definitely did. And Hideki, actually, that yellow is for Hideki. I'm going to see him probably this week. So I'm going to have to tell him, look, dude, you're wearing yellow on every Sunday this year. That's it. Sunday yellow.
Yeah.
And staying on Tiger just for a second, Steve, because when we were on the call, it almost sucked the wind out of us just a little bit, because I don't think that we ever thought that he was going to win, and he was right around +1 even, +1 and even. And I really believe that and I know Justin Thomas loves to play with him, but if I'm Justin moving forward, I'm going to tell Tiger thanks, but no thanks, because he tries way too hard to impress Tiger, and he doesn't play well. Of the 19 players, that's it. 19 did not make the cut. Justin Thomas was one of those guys, and he played with Tiger, as did Gary Woodland. So that hole, it was almost like a bubble was overtopped him. And then after Tiger leaves, Justin Thomas played worse because they had to wait on every single tee box.
It was really kind of a disaster scenario right there for everybody, for the fans, for the players in the group with Woodland and Thomas there. But yeah, to see Tiger go like that, I wore my Tuesday red in honor of him. He didn't wear it on Sunday, so I'll wear it for him. But it was just one of those things that, yeah, we wanted to see Tiger play, and he disappeared like that, and I hope he feels better soon. But let's get him back in the tournament. Where is he going to play before the Masters? He's got to play sometime in March. Does he play the Players? Does he maybe sign up and play his hometown event, the Cognizant Classic, the old Honda Classic? We'll wait and see. I don't know. He needs some reps, though. He's got to get in there and play tournament golf.
Well, he said he wants to play at least once a month leading up to every major. And so I think you got to look at which of these tournaments are the easiest walk. API has turned into an extremely difficult course to play. I don't know about the walking, but there are several events in March that he could play. And since it didn't come out that he had any, other than the back spasms and the shank on 18, he didn't really complain about anything like that. So I'm interested, too, to see where he decides to tee it up again. Now, one man who did not get to tee it up, Fast Eddie, on Saturday, and it was nobody's fault but his own, was one Jordan Spieth, because I was actually calling the hole, the par 4 third, which, by the way, it's a different – I saw you tweet about it. They got to fix that hole. Stop it. 15% of all golfers is all that can hold a green on the PGA Tour. You got to fix that hole. But he literally hit it way to the left, chipped up, missed the putt, carded a 4. 3 hours later, he signs for a 3 and is eliminated from the golf tournament. Do you think in 2024 that players should still be eliminated and disqualified if a mistake like this happens?
I can see both sides. Being a traditionalist, we've always kept scorecards of our playing competitors. I think, in every other sport, tennis, whatever it is, other people are keeping score, right? So, but golf, it's, you keep your playing partner score, you sign for it at the end, you're responsible for it. I think DQing a player in 2024 is a little bit too much. I would say, look, you sign for an incorrect scorecard, 2 shots, and then move on. He's not trying to cheat. Jordan Spieth is not that type of guy. It doesn't happen very often, but I can see both sides of it. Say, yeah, you know what, you sign for an incorrect score, you're out. Or, maybe it's kind of make the rules a little more lenient and say, hey, look, here, you sign for an incorrect score, 2-shot penalty, and you start tomorrow 2 shots worse than you shot today. So.
Yeah, TJ says in the chat, yeah, I really think they got to fix that. Brian says, I hope they do not change things. It is up to player to keep track. And Steve, you played in a lot of competitive rounds in your day. The word on the street is that Jordan, like a lot of players, had a bug and that he had to run to the restroom. And then when he came back, that just things were all over the place. I'm not saying that as an excuse for him, but that was a story that was going around the Genesis last week.
Yeah, I mean, just hanging around somewhere in LA, you feel like you're going to get something, right? It seems like everybody's got some. Hope you, stay away from that place there, Coach, wherever they've been eating. But they definitely they got something. But yeah, with Jordan specifically, it was a weird scenario, right? I mean, hey, you gotta go, and maybe he had to go and run really fast, and it was a tough scenario for him. Do I think that people should be disqualified like that? I think in this day and age, in certain events where we have all these, a lot of it is about verifying, right? There's not that many golf events in the world that are televised like a PGA Tour event. I think you could make that definite idea there that PGA Tour events are not in that realm at all. So, but as far as like the average player, if you and I are going out to play in a tournament, we have to attest each other's score. We have to kind of prove to the field and to the committee, hey, I watched Eddie hit, had 69 shots today, whatever the case may be. And I think for normal golf, it makes a lot of sense. Some of these PGA Tour events that basically every hole is televised, we may have to rethink it.
My son, who plays junior golf, he has to keep at least 2 other scores in his group of the foursome. They all keep 2 other scores. Yeah. Then they sit there and they go hole by hole by hole by hole. And if they can do that in junior, but there's a lot of mixed reactions too. Yep. TJ had a good point in the chat. He said, what if you had a ticket on Jordan Spieth? What if you had a ticket on Spieth to win top 10, top 20 head to head? Yep. Boy, are you bitter today, boys? Are you bitter on Saturday, I should say. But that's part of it. You would have won your head-to-head matchup by default, which I've done that before. It's a great feeling when you do. It sucks when you're on the other end of it. It really does. And, oh, by the way, Spieth was -5. He was only 8 back. He was in the tie for 50. He was like tie for 15th or 14th, something like that. So he cost himself a lot of FedEx Cup points, potentially over $1 million, as there was an elevated field, $20 million, $4 million to the winner. All right, let's spin it forward to this week, guys. And because all that big event was done at the Genesis and the West Coast Swing, and then you've got the Florida Swing coming up after this week, well, there's always going to be a tournament on the PGA Tour schedule that suffers. And this week is the Mexico Open at Vedanta. And the last 2 years, because he wants to help with golf in Mexico, Jon Rahm has been one of the superstars that has gone there to play. He won 2 years ago. Last year lost to Tony Finau, and Finau will be back as the defending champion. He's the highest-ranked player in the field at 24. And when you look at other ranked players, only Nicolai Højgaard and Emiliano Grillo are inside the top 40. So this could be, Steve, I'll come back to you and start with you first. This could be an opportunity for somebody to get some big-time FedEx Cup points, maybe somebody that's got out to a slow start with not all the hot players and not the stars being there. This could be a diamond-type week in the rough.
You're right. I think you really have to look at your total driving stats this week when you're laying your picks out for the week. I think that the players who can hit it really far, you don't necessarily, maybe not total driving as much as driving distance. I would put driving distance ahead of the total driving stat. The total driving stat, by the way, is accuracy and distance combined. So that's why like a Keith Mitchell might be up there on your board a little bit higher. But I think that the distance overrides it. I was lucky enough the last 2 years and the first 2 years and only 2 years that they've had this event. I was covering this for PGA Tour Live the last few years. So I've seen the whole golf course. The rough usually is very low. The par fives are very long. So the longer hitters, there's not a ton of trouble around the greens either. And so I think the guys who can really send it down the fairway have a distinct advantage. I mean, Jon Rahm and Tony Finau, there's no coincidence that they were at the top of the leaderboard the last few years because of those skills off the tee. So definitely take guys who can really send it off the tee. You know, if Fast Eddie was playing here, things would be golden this week. He would be. I'd pick Fast Eddie on this golf course, but unfortunately, he didn't get into the field.
I didn't get in the field.
There is not a lot of trouble. I also called it the last couple of years. Not a lot of trouble, which you just explained it beautifully. From a competitive standpoint, and then we'll get into all of our picks for the week. Eddie, when you know that there aren't a lot of superstars in the field, but you know anybody can win at any time. I mean, most of the winners this year have been north of 100-1. Even if it's a big name like Hideki. So there hasn't been a lot of stars that have won yet on the PGA Tour. But from a competitive standpoint, how do you get yourself in the right mindset to go in there and say, I don't care who else is here. I just want to focus on myself?
I think it's a matter of just being aggressive. Like Steve said, you have to hit it a long way at this place. It's one of the longer golf courses on the PGA Tour, 7,500 yards. Past Pelham grass, so it's kind of sticky. So you're going to have to carry it. You're not going to be able to roll it very, very far out there. So I feel like there aren't a lot of stars, but yet, I mean, obviously everyone that plays the PGA Tour is super talented. Everyone's good is great. It's how good is your bat at certain times. So I like the longer players this week, like Steve said. But when you don't have the JTs or the Rorys or, you know, the bigger names on tour, you kind of feel like, okay, this is an opportunity. I'm going to go out there and give it everything I got. So I like some of I've got a couple of long shots in here that I really like, who played well in the last couple of years, maybe haven't been playing well as of late, but some good past success at this place.
You know, Roy, speaking of Roy, by the way, he did confirm on Sunday, he did some commentary on CBS, that he's going to be playing in 3 of the Florida swing events, taking a week off, and then he'll play in the Valero Texas Open. So he's going to play 4 more times before we get to Augusta and the Masters, and we'll see how many other top players. But we know how much he puts on the Augusta. That would be the career Grand Slam, and it's been a long time, a decade since Roy won a major. All right, gentlemen. By the way, some people in the chat are wondering where our man Robert Damron is. Some people say, well, he's probably playing cards and taking people's money, or no, he's actually doing an interview for a Tiger Woods documentary, something like that. It's something like that, and then also he has some other stuff to do. That's why we have a whole team. You know, Eddie misses last week, RD's here, then you know Steve could miss next week. It's all about the crew. DTL Golf. All right, we got very close a week ago. Very, very close a week ago to getting the job done. So we have 5 different categories here on DTL Golf. We start where the tournament starts, the first round and first round leaders. So, Steve Scott, I'm going to start with you because there's going to be some names this week. And this very first name is one of them that people may not know. So I need to be educated. I got to be entertained. Let's start right here.
Right. Let's start right here. First round leader. I love this category. This is a tough one to pick exactly, but I really love this Florida Gator, Alejandro Tosti. I love saying that name too. He's toasty. His game is toasty because it's going to be toasty in Puerto Vallarta. But anyway, he is a guy who's second in first round scoring average this year. He's got 3 first rounds under his belt. His average is 66. So that's a good, solid start. On the Korn Ferry Tour last year, he won one event, which helped propel him onto the PGA Tour. And in that event that he won, he shot 63 in the first round. He is used to coming out of the box hot and ready to go. And he's a fiery Argentinian, so he should really kind of fit in well. And he's going to speak the language down in Mexico. He's going to be able to get around and know where the baño is and all that stuff. So anyway, Alejandro Tosti, he's your guy.
By the way, I didn't ask you, and I'm scared to even know the number. TJ is wondering, we talked every week about if we roll that dollar over for all the winners. Do you know where we would be at?
Oh, gosh, I need to do some math on that, but it would be you'd be able to buy a small country there, TJ. So yeah, you'd have a lot.
Yeah, well over $100 million if you hit all the way. I mean, well over $100 million.
Yeah.
So
be all right.
I don't even like to cry. By the way, this event at Vedanta, part of the reason the players like it so much is it's a resort course. So there's so many things for families to do. If you remember a year ago, Eddie, Tony Finau wins the event, and they have a lit par 3 course on property, and he was caddying for his sons an hour and a half after he won the event. He was called Father of the Year, but it's a great place. They love to play here. Now, there is your boy right there, Tony Finau. Why do you like him again to start off hot?
We need more Tony Finaus on tour.
Yep.
You know, plain and simple. Awesome guy, super player. I love him because he finished second and first the first 2 years it was there. Defending champion. He's got good vibes. Obviously, when he goes there, he plays well, 24 under par, which basically averages 65 every day. He's averaging over 5 birdies per round this season. And, whenever you go back to a place that you've had success at, like those good vibes it's real. Whenever I've played it somewhere or gone to a long drive event where I have had success, it almost like it carries over to that tournament or that specific week. So I'd like him to be, leading after day one.
I was looking at the chat. Did you mention Jaeger too?
I did. Steven Jaeger, plus 3,500, almost 5 birdies per round this season. He's getting more and more comfortable. He almost won at the Farmers this year, so I really like him. I've seen him at a few mini tour events over the past few years, and his game is just getting a little bit better every week. And it just seems like he's starting to hit it farther. I love what he's doing in the in his pre-shot or pre-round routine, where he's getting after the driver a little bit and kind of going with a little bit of speed. So that's what this course is going to need this week. So I really like the two of those guys. I think they're pretty good picks, and that's why I chose them.
Yeah, he was dominant on the Korn Ferry Tour a couple of years ago. Sometimes it takes guys, a couple of years to really find their footing on the PGA Tour. Steven Jaeger is one of those guys. And a lot of people in the chat, they're loving your picks so far. But my man, Big Cheesy, who I'm still waiting for those pictures in that Chiefs jersey. I cannot wait to put them on Driving the Line. He can't wait for our tournament matchups. And that is category number 2 right here on DTL Golf. We tell you all the time. And if you're new to our show, this is our bread and butter. This is where if you're going to spend a full unit, you're $100 better. These would be your $100 bets. So, Steve Scott, let me come over to you. You also, let's start right there. Think Jaeger has a good week this week, even money over Grillo?
I do. I really do. I think here's a couple reasons. Number one, Steven Jaeger's taken the last 2 weeks off. And if you've seen what the weather's been like most of the last few weeks, Emiliano Grillo has played the last 3 weeks in a row. And he's really just, he's got to need a little bit of a rest because they've really slogged through a lot of rain, a lot of issues. And so I like Steven Jaeger, and he's picked up a lot of distance. Speaking of distance, and that was the only way he could compete at Torrey Pines for the Farmers Insurance a few weeks back that he almost won. So I like Jaeger right there. He's doing really solid. Grillo just 44th out of 51 who made the cut last week. So he's just got progressively worse. I think he needs a break. Jaeger's fresh. So him for plus 100, even money there. Patrick Rogers minus 120 over Davis Thompson. Patrick Rogers has had some pretty good success here. A couple top tens in his first 2 and only starts at the Mexico Open. So that's been a really good, solid finish right there. Davis Thompson, he's played pretty well this year. He's just not to that echelon I think that Patrick Rogers is, even though Thompson finished in the top 20 recently in Phoenix. Patrick Rogers has got this game. He seems to pop up in these tropical destinations, as does my last pick, Brandon Wu, at even money right there over Ryan Fox. Ryan Fox has played pretty well internationally, hasn't played that well on the PGA Tour yet, kind of getting his legs over here. Brandon Wu, again, tropical conditions are kind of what he thrives on. He loves these grainy greens. This is kind of a different surface than most. This past Palm, it's like a really coarse, kind of a thick, grainy type grass. Even though he's only had one top 25 in the last 8 months, these are the places that he shines on. He played well the last couple of years here, very well, actually almost won the golf tournament, a third and a second place. And a couple of years ago in Puerto Rico, under similar conditions, he finished tied for third there as well. So Brandon Wu is a really solid pick this week as well.
I made the joke last year that he pays for his entire year of traveling at the Mexico Open, because it seems like he doesn't do anything else anywhere else but when he travels to this event the last 2 years. Because
always seems to pop up. Yeah,
he does. And second place is usually around $600,000 to $800,000 at a PGA Tour event. So you can make a lot of money. Brian agrees with you as well. I thought Ryan Fox, by the way, Steve, would be better. He's so good on the DP World Tour, but it doesn't always transfer to here. Why do you think that is?
I think some of it is just a comfort factor, just kind of getting to know the areas and getting to know the golf courses better. I think he will win or he will contend a couple times out here on the tour, but I don't know. He's just not quite finding it over here just yet. I mean, he's international. He's from New Zealand, I believe. So he's gone all around the world to play. Maybe he doesn't like In-N-Out Burger as much as Tiger Woods does. I don't know.
Well, I'm not so sure how many players liked In-N-Out Burger last week. Apparently, from the stories that we're hearing,
In-N-Out.
Anybody see Tom Kim on Sunday? Almost missed his tee time, jetting across the practice green. Again, more stories out there. I'm just relying.
They got to replace the toilets there at Riviera, I think.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. All right, let's get over to Fast Eddie, because you like Patrick Rogers too, but there's a lot of different sports books out there that we use. So you like him over a different player. Let's start there.
Rogers minus 118 over Eric Van Rooyen. Patrick hasn't played particularly well yet this year. Super talented. Obviously, we all know what he did at Stanford in college. He finished 10th the last 2 years here. Again, good vibes. I'm going to be mentioning that all day. His first win is looming. He's too talented not to win on the PGA Tour. I think it's coming. So I just like him over Eric. He's finished 9th, 14th, and 24th so far in 5 events in 24. Van Rooyen, 33rd last year at this event. His best finish so far this year is 20th at the AT&T. I like Patrick over Van Rooyen. And then Mark Hubbard, Hub is absolutely love this pick. I did some research. Hubbard, 18th last year, 5 of 5 cuts made in 2024 already, 4th at the AT&T, 20th at the Farmers. He's 68th, a very quiet 68th in the official World Golf Rankings, 28th FedEx Cup. Shots gained total for this field, he's 8th, just with this field at plus 0.79. And then, Aaron Rise missed 2 out of 4 cuts this year. He's finished 33rd and 57th in the 2 cuts he's made. And he missed the cut last year at Vedanta. So I really love Mark Hubbard over Aaron Rai on BetMGM.
Do you think it's hard? Because I mentioned that this is a resort-style course and that a lot of the players will bring their significant others. They'll bring their families like Tony Finau did last year. We don't talk a lot about the off-the-course stuff. But, Steve, let me go to you first. When you play at a place like this, is it hard to get that competitive mojo going when you get to Thursday?
I think this is a venue that's actually going to be easier for so many players. I don't think it's going to be hard to get the mojo going because these players, this is what they do. They're tournament players. And when the tournament flag goes up, they're ready to go. But it's definitely a low-key tour event. And if somebody was going to kind of fly under the radar here this week and notch a top victory or a top 10 or a victory or whatever the case may be, this would be one because there's not a ton of crowds. Everything is just really low-key. You might go sip a margarita by the pool or a Mai Tai on the beach, whatever. Like, you're just going to cerveza, whatever you're going to do. It's going to be a really chill week. And I think that's why you just see some certain players really shine, because they love the atmosphere. They love being able to just go chill out afterwards. So it just frees them up instead of going and grinding on their game. They feel like they're on vacation, which could be a really good, this game is very mental, as we know. So it's a good mentality to have.
What do you think about that, Eddie?
Yeah, I agree. I think some players like Tony Finau is so family oriented. I think when he takes his family on, to tournaments with him, I think it's just like any other day. And I think guys like that maybe more than guys who maybe are away from their families a lot more, who don't maybe have as much interaction as Tony does. So I think that's why Tony is more in his comfort zone when his family's there rather than when they're not. So I think it could work both for both players, I guess. Just like when I picked Keith Mitchell, or who did I pick at the Waste Management? He was a hometown guy. I think hometown, that could hurt you in a way. Mm-hmm. So, but I agree. I agree with, kind of Tony Finau bringing his family. I think it's great.
We love to stay at home. We love to have guys stay in their house. By the way, Steve Scott, he let me stay in his house last week. I do my wrestling show, and my buddy says, "Hey, how come you don't have a ring light? You were way too dark." I had a ring light. I just didn't turn it on because Steve gave me one. But that was the criticism I got staying at Steve Scott. I was way too comfortable. Didn't have my A game, and I didn't turn the ring light on. How about that? By the way, Joey says $1 million PGA tournament, and the food is from cheap In-N-Out. What are they doing? Joey, understand this. You're not going to have Morton's out at a golf tournament. This is what players like to eat. It's easy. You put it in a little boat, maybe a French fry or two, some barbecue. It doesn't matter how much money they're getting paid. This is what players like to eat when they're on the golf course.
Yeah, most of the players weren't eating that stuff. That was just a really nice social media hit. The food and player dining inside the beautiful, immaculate clubhouse, I'm sure they had, the filet and sushi, and I'm sure they had all sorts of good stuff, but something hit these guys.
Is that all, Steve?
That's all I got.
Something hit these guys. All right, category number 3. We like to call these the finishing positions. And the reason we say scale it back just a little bit is because these are not as hard as winning, but you can get to Sunday and shoot a +3. All of a sudden, you go from a T9 to a T23 really, really quick. So, Eddie, I want to start with your top 20s first. Let's just do those first two. Why do you like Jaeger and Cameron Champ?
Yeah, Jaeger, like I mentioned before, really solid, 4.87 birdies per round this season. He's getting more and more comfortable each week, and he's just a really, really good, solid player. He's, his strokes gained keeps getting better. Again, had a chance to win at the Farmers. So, after that successful season on the Korn Ferry Tour, he's feeling more and more comfortable every week, and it's about experience. He's getting more experience every week, every month. And I really like him to finish top 10. Top 20 we're talking about. And then Cam Champ, look, he has struggled. There's no doubt about it. He's missed a bunch of cuts in a row. But what I do like, I like the value of this bet. He hits it so far, and this is a Bombers golf course, and it's going to give you a little bit of room out there. So I think if he can drive it particularly well, he's going to have a good. I think he's going to have a good week. I like him top 20 +230. Sprinkle a little few bucks on him, I think. So that's why I like those guys for the top 20.
Yeah, this is kind of what we call in golf betting laddering it up. So he likes the same two for top 20 and top 10. And understand that Cameron Champ is kind of the poster child for just kind of going along, missing a bunch of cuts. And then all of a sudden, he gets a top 2, or he gets a top 3, or he gets a victory. He has the skill set to do it. So Eddie likes top 20 and also the numbers for top 10. All right, Steve, let's go through all 4 of yours. Now, Nikolai Højgaard, by the way, I want to point him out. He's living here for 3 months. And it's interesting that he's decided not to go back and forth at all, which I think is a pretty good mindset and a game plan. But let's start with your top 20 and then take me through your top 10s.
Right. I'm going to pick a few guys who are at the +190 mark in Brandon Wu and Jake Knapp. We've talked about Brandon Wu a little bit. This is just a comfort factor for him, and he's played very well here. I don't see him finishing outside the top 20. I see him kind of continuing his great play that he's had here in the past. Jake Knapp is a guy that you probably never heard of. He just came off the Korn Ferry Tour last year, but he tied for third at the Farmers, which we know at Torrey Pines, the longest golf course on tour. So that's a place that he was very comfortable with, and he can send it down the fairway. This year, 22nd in distance in the few events that he's played. Last year, though, in the whole tour on the Korn Ferry Tour, he was second in distance and 11th in total driving. So that's a huge, huge, huge stat. I can't emphasize that enough at this venue, those long hitters, they're going to be able to take advantage of those par fives that are almost 600 yards here at the Mexico Open. So you have to be able to send it far and land it nice and soft. When you get to as far down the fairways, Jake Knapp does. He's a guy, I just got to keep your eye on him. He finished just outside the top 20 as well in another start recently at Phoenix. So he's a guy, he's just hungry enough to get out there and get a top 20. Top 10 wise, Nikolai Højgaard in that plus 200 range. He's got 13 consecutive cuts worldwide, including a victory recently. He's really close to getting it done. He was second place at the Farmers as well, that long golf course. In his debut in this event last year, he led the field in proximity to the hole. So he likes this golf course clearly. Patrick Rodgers, it's just a matter of time. Gosh, can this guy close the deal? I think he can at some point, but a top 10, I think he'll continue his great play, just like Brandon Wu has. This horses for courses sort of thought, it definitely holds true with Patrick Rodgers. He just loves this place, and it gels with him.
Yeah, he was so dominant in college, and to your point, at some point, it's got to gel for him to step into the winner's circle. Now, speaking of the winner's circle, this man was relentless the last 7 days, because last week, a little 130-1 at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and Fast Eddie said, hey, guys, let me go into my long shot category, and there's a little name named Nick Taylor. He's plus 13,000. So I'm going to give you, Fast Eddie, since you missed the show last week, it is so hard to predict the winner. And at 130-1 for the second week in a row, he was Hideki, but you called it. You said, keep your eye on Nick Taylor. And there was a lot of people that watched this show. I got the tweets that did a little sprinkle. Congratulations, sir.
Sometimes you go with a gut feeling. You feel like certain players, you just feel like they're going to play well. They feel like they're going to break out. And Steve knows this as well as anyone. You find one thing on the range, either the day before or the week of, and you're like, whoa, now, and then all of a sudden it just gives you that confidence to go out and play really well. And sometimes, Cameron Champ, we were just talking about it. He's that type of guy. He could miss 4 or 5 cuts in a row, all of a sudden, boom, top 5 or win. So it's just a matter of going out and just, sometimes it's that one little thing that you get, or maybe one little putting thing that you're going to do, whether it be, maybe a different putter, or, maybe a little swing change here or there, taking it back a little bit more inside or whatever. And sometimes that just gels and your confidence just goes right through the roof.
No doubt. Now, as we get into our winners category, normally I never like anything less than, to be honest with you, like plus 1,500, but never less than plus 1,000. But when you have an event like this, I actually don't mind a plus 750. And you think that Tony Finau could go back to back. And then you also the fact that Brandon Wu's at plus 3,500 is simply because he's done nothing the rest of the year. So I like how you go small and you go a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I love Tony. First and second his first 2 years here at this golf course, plus 3.53 strokes gained total at this place. It's just he's so good at this golf course. 24 under last year, basically averaged 65 each round. And vibes are a huge thing. When you go back to a place where you've played well and you've had success, it just kind of breeds over into that week. And he's been playing pretty well. But I think that winning vibe will kind of creep into his game this week. That's why I like him. And then Brandon Wu at plus 3,500. I mean, the guy's finished second and third the last 2 years. Talk about a value bet right there. His shots gained or strokes gained total last 2 years at Vedanta, plus 2.9. The only one better is Tony. So it's just, again, great vibes. Like you said, he pays for his entire year of travel at Vedanta. So I think I think he likes Mexico. So I think I think those are two really good picks.
I think he does too. Thank you to TJ talking about a boost with DraftKings. That's what I love about you guys in the chat. And last night we had our show, Shoot Your Shot. You guys were amazing. TJ was a part of that. You guys all take care of each other, no matter if it's golf or the Daily Show. And we're only growing bigger. So thank you guys very much for that. Now, Steven Yeager's kind of what I like to call, when you're talking about a winner, the sweet spot. It's enough of a value to make yourself some cash, but also really you can get a really good player at this number. Do you like Yeager and the number? Or would you think it should have been maybe a little bit tighter?
No, I think it's where it is because he hasn't won yet on the PGA Tour. If he's got a win under his belt, I mean, that goes up to the plus 1,500 or better for sure. But I think he's kind of in a good spot right now. And he's definitely somebody who you should keep your eye on. And definitely have before I go further, definitely shout out there, TJ. Thanks so much for all that great info. I do love the chat too. Love everybody in our universe really giving us some good stuff. But as far as Yeager goes, his third appearance at Vedanta, he's got a pair of top 20s, averaging just over 68 for each of those, and he's played very consistently as well. He's ready to jump up there and make his 22nd consecutive cut this week. He's just really rock solid, always in the mix, and it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
It's bananas because normally through the first month, January and early February, you have so many big events, so many big West Coast events. Normally you have big time names. That has not been the case. So now as we get into the long shot category, this is not nearly as crazy as it normally would be because of who we've seen already win this year. So when you look at some of these numbers, these guys have been awful this year. They have not done anything, but because, as I said, anything could happen. So, Fast Eddie Fernandes. Davis Riley is a cat that nearly won a couple of years ago. I was calling the Valspar. He's a Alabama guy. He's great friends with Justin Thomas. He literally has fallen off a cliff the last several months, but this week, maybe this is the week. Tell me about your two.
It's exactly what I was thinking, Coach. Roll Tide. Super talented player. He played here a couple years ago, plus almost 2.5 strokes gained total. And, whenever you get a player who this might be a little opening for him, he's probably thinking, look, I don't have to deal with McIlroy or Scheffler or any of these guys. Let's go and kind of put the pedal to the metal. Let's get back on track here. So he is a very, very talented player. And that's why I picked him plus 12,500 on BetMGM. And then Harry Hall, plus 10,000. Again, finished 10th last year. He just started working with Dana Dahlquist, who I know pretty well. Great guy, very good teacher. And, in his career so far on the PGA Tour hasn't been that great, but 3 top 10s last year. And, it's worth putting a few, how the guy does it with the salt. Remember that the chef where he goes like this, he kind of sprinkles the salt on there. Sprinkle a little, I love on those guys. Yeah, isn't that how he does it, Coach, like that?
Just a little sprinkle.
Just a
little. Boy, if I hit one at plus 10,000 or plus 12,000, that's going to pay for the rest of my year.
Yeah, for sure.
Just put like $5 or $10 on it. We had somebody send us on Twitter last week. They had a $5 Will Zalatoris ticket that was going to pay $355, whatever that number is. And they had a buyout for $46. They're like, Coach, what do I do? What do I do? So what do you mean, what do you do? It's $46. You let it ride for the $355. Now, it didn't hit. But what I told that gentleman was it all depends on how much money it is. And is $46 life-changing to you, then you take it. But I would guess a $5 bet is for fun. So when you guys have a buyout on a Saturday night into Sunday, if it could help pay and it's enough, then take the buyout. But I rarely do because I want to get that big payout. Rarely do you get that big payout. So take that for what it's worth. Now, Steve Scott, you've got a moderate long shot, and then you got a big time long shot. Explain
Yeah.
yourself.
I spoke about Alejandro Tosti before, the fiery Argentinian who incidentally got kicked out of a couple events towards the end of last year for, just his fiery behavior on the course. But he's just fiery enough to get out there and get it done and be that cocky little son of a gun out there and go and get it done. He won on the Corn Ferry Tour last year. And I think he's could be right in there. I've almost cashed 2 long shots this year, couple second places. So, gosh, I'm close. And then Kevin Doherty, plus 18,000. He's a name that's all way off your radar, kind of like a Jake Knapp I mentioned before. Kevin Doherty hits it a mile, an absolute mile. He's second in strokes gained off the tee in the few events that he's played this year. 16th in putting as well, so he can roll his rock. And last year on the Corn Ferry Tour, I look at some of his events, and we can see on individual events. I look on Data Golf quite a bit. That's got a lot of great information there, where it tells you, each individual event, how the players are stacking up compared to their colleagues for that week. They're 20 to 40 yards on average. He was longer than the average player on the Corn Ferry Tour from week to week. So this Kevin Doherty, this could be a week that you just be really perfect. Again, the crowds are really low here. They're sparse. This is going to feel kind of like a Pro-Am more than a PGA Tour event for a lot of these guys. So I think it's an atmosphere where a Kevin Doherty could just come from nowhere and do something kind of magical.
You've got to figure out your motivation. And thank you, Chris. Plus 22.5 at BetMGM.
Wow. Okay, go for that one then. I got mine on DraftKings. So
remember, this is I think this is only our 5th show. I think I'm going to predict by July, maybe earlier, we will have an official sports book. We're already starting to get the calls. People understand that we have the best production, the best staff, the best talent that's out there. So right now we use a lot of books. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to do that. But I'm telling whoever we partner with that in golf, unless you want to get better, we got to be able to use all of them, because we're here for you. We're not here for a sports book. We're here to give you the best number. So, Chris, thank you very much for that. And by the way, a year ago, I almost have a tear in my eye when Steve Scott and I kind of got into the whole golf betting thing together. And he's like, Coach, I want to learn. Now he's a master. Now he's like calling me saying, Coach, I had a T2, baby. I had a T2. Way to go, Steve Scott. Way to go. All right, gentlemen, we have Mexico this week, and then we head into the Florida swing. So as we get through this week and then head into March, Eddie, I know I'm putting you on the spot. We've got, 6 or 7 weeks before the year's first major. What do you think is the most important thing for some of these guys that we talk about all the time, whether it's a Rory playing 4 times, whether it's Tiger trying to shock the world, whether it's a Justin Thomas trying to figure out, how do I miss a cut when there's only 70 dudes and it's top 50 in ties and within 10? So we got all these guys. What do you think the mindset has to be?
Get your equipment dialed now. 6 weeks. I remember Bryson was kind of playing with, drivers a few years ago before, like, the week of the Masters. Get everything dialed now. Commit to whatever you're playing. Get something that you're going to commit to through the first major of the year. That's my biggest thing. I don't like tweaking things the week before, the week of. I think you go into it 6 weeks, boom, I got everything I'm going to use, putter, driver, setup, whatever. Get everything locked in and go from there. I think that's the biggest. So there's no questions. This is what I'm going to commit to, and that's it. You go and you ride or die with what you're using.
And Steve, when you're talking about API difficult, that is a signature event. Honda, very, very difficult. Valspar, very difficult golf course. You better have your A game heading into the Florida swing, yes?
You better have it right. I love what Eddie said about that. Definitely, you got 14 clubs in your bag. You got to get your 14 best friends on board and just ride with them. But I think what the players are doing this year, that's a little different than the past years. Remember, this is a calendar year season this year for the FedEx Cup. So it's from January through the end of August through that Tour Championship. These players are trying to figure out what schedule is going to work best for them. They don't have the events in the fall to kind of ramp up and gain all these FedEx Cup points and all these dollars. They're trying to figure out, I mean, Rory McIlroy, he's chewing a whole different schedule than he has done in the past because it's more condensed essentially. So they're trying to figure all of this stuff out. I think that that's one of those X factors that, certain players, they don't want to feel too gassed by the time they get to Augusta. They want to feel prepared. But Rory's trying something different. And I think a lot of players are just trying to feel themselves out as to which events and how many they could play in a row. And these signature events are playing into it. And, some of these guys who just barely made it off the Korn Ferry Tour last year, they're not getting many starts. So there's a lot of different factors in play for a week like this, and different motivation maybe at this time of the year than there has been in past years.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because they're almost having their schedule dictated, because there are ways to play yourself into these signature events. Last week, it was 70 dudes. If you're not one of those 70 cats, then you're not playing, and you almost have to go and play in Mexico. And then you got another signature event. So you got to figure that out. The other thing I like is that the PGA Tour lowered it to 70 guys for the FedEx Cup playoffs. So last year we saw a guy like JT show up in Detroit. He would never play Detroit unless he had to. So a lot of these guys, I think, are going to front load, especially in the month of March, so they don't have to worry about it, hopefully, when they get to July, the beginning of August, and not be like JT was last year and be like 78th and have to go in there and play your butt off to get in, which he did not do. Gentlemen, great show as always. We look forward to Mexico this week. We're here every single Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Also, we have round by round picks on Thursday and Friday. And then also turn on your notifications. We may go live on a Thursday or a Friday. You just never know. And for members of the crew, you'll have crew exclusive picks as well from day to day. But in the meantime, there's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these Mexico Open Advendanta picks straight to the pay window. My entire group, Lobo, Fast Eddie Fernandes, my man Steve Scott, my producer man behind the scenes, and I am simply the coach, trying to keep this train on said track. We grind for you so we can win with you. It's truly what we're all about right here at DTL Golf. Good luck.